Buttonholes can be done super easy with the automatic buttonhole foot. That's the one with the red wheel on it. And the foot C is our manual buttonhole foot. So you actually have 2 feet that look identical. One's going to allow you to program in the exact length of buttonhole you need, and one will help you for some other techniques that we'll show you as well, like corded buttonholes. So for this one here, I am going to show you before I put it on that on this side, which will be on the left side, when you look at the top, there is a white mark. And when you roll the wheel, there will be a white crown. And if you don't have that lined up, or if it has moved before you start, the machine will indicate, please line up those two. You'll actually have to kind of, when it's on, you're going to be leaning this way to look at that white crown. And as you can see that once I put the foot on, sometimes that will move, or when I slip my fabric underneath, sometimes that will move that wheel. So just plan to get that set prior to sewing. And then with plugging it in, there's a place right here. You just have to follow your finger up. You can feel kind of where it is. If you need to peek underneath to really see it, go ahead and do that. But once you get used to it, you should be able to kind of just guide it up there with your fingers and give it a good push. When you give it a good push and it stays firmly in, that will be correct. But for any reason, when you start sewing these buttonholes that it just keeps going and going and going and going, we call those at our store runaway buttonholes. That just means that you didn't plug it in all the way. Just unplug it and then put it back in, and you'll get it all set. So you can come over to the side of the machine and pick your stitch here. You can use the sewing advisor. So if you want to tell it what fabric you're working on, and then tell it that you're doing a buttonhole, it will pick the right buttonhole for the fabric you have selected. I'm going to go ahead and do woven medium, and it's going to go ahead and select the most basic style of buttonhole. It also has a black dot right here, kind of looks like at the bottom part of the buttonhole, and that's where it's going to start. So just keep in mind that when you put your fabric in, don't put it up here because you're going to run off the edge of your fabric immediately. And of course, you're going to want to do some test buttonholes. Test it with the same fabric and interfacing that you have with the actual project. If you just test it on a regular fabric and then switch to a heavier one, you might not get the exact results. So I'm going to first just move that red wheel. Now my crown and white mark are matching. Now the other thing that we can do is, how do we tell the machine what size of buttonhole we need? Take your button, and then right down here where the measuring tool is on the front of your machine, there's a 0 with a dotted circle. We're going to just put our button right there, and then we're going to look and see that that is 18 millimeters. And you can come right over to the screen. You have a new part here that's showing when you pick a buttonhole, and it shows right now a default length of 14. So if I want it to be 18, I can just go ahead and touch the arrow up to increase it or down to make it a smaller size. Once that's set, we don't even have to do anything. You just need to know where you need to start your buttonhole, and there's marks on the front of this foot, so you can set them to always start at the same place. If you are working from the edge inside to say 5/8 of a millimeter, you can go ahead and measure that. I believe that's in might be the first mark here. I'll have to measure it myself. I don't have that one memorized. But once you have this set, so you can lower that down and see, are you right where you need to be? Now, you can go ahead and push the start-stop button, or you can use your foot control. I'm going to go ahead and I'll just lower the speed down just a little bit, and then just use the start-stop button. It's going to sew straight back here, and then it will tack with the zigzag over the straight stitch, and that will be the left leg of the buttonhole. And then once it gets all the way down, then it will go ahead and stitch all the way back straight. And this red wheel, that's what's counting how long it has traveled for making that 18 millimeter buttonhole just perfect. Now, once it gets down to the where we started, it will tack it, lock it, and cut it, and lift the presser foot up. So it's all done at once. I love these buttonholes. All right, we'll just pull that out. Does it get any more perfect than that one? It doesn't. So if this was the right size, you would go ahead and use scissors or a buttonhole cutter to open that up. A lot of times I'll put a little fray check on there, but let it dry for about 5 minutes, then cut it open, and then you're set to go. But you also notice that you do have other types of buttonholes. So as we go through each of those, they will often change feet if needs be. Like 29, you're going to use the regular buttonhole foot. Letter C. We're going to just switch over. That is a stretch buttonhole done on knit fabrics often. Now with this, because we don't have a length preset, once we go ahead and start it, we kind of need to know where we're going to turn it around. You also notice there's a new symbol on the screen and indicates your reverse button. That's the same one. So as we go ahead and start stitching, I love it. It kind of does a little crisscross or like a cross stitch type buttonhole that has a little give to it. It's beautiful. Go ahead and stitch as far as you need it to be. Touch the reverse button one time. That's going to go ahead and tell the machine that that's as far as you need to be, and then it will start coming back down the right side. Now again, this does not know where we started, so we will need to tell it. So I'm going to kind of get almost there, maybe one more stitch, then touch that reverse button. It's going to switch the picture right here, indicating it's going to do the tack at the bottom and secure that for me. There's the lock, and then now it will do the cut. So we only have to touch that reverse button 2 times. Once we get to the length we want, and once when we get back to where we started. And see how pretty that is? And if that was on knit fabric, it would have a little bit of give to it. So that's how you actually use the manual buttonhole foot. Now another thing that you can do is when you use the sewing advisor for, say, a stretchy fabric, the new symbol that's going to come up, it looks like a little cord going through this exact foot. There's a little peg or kind of nub on the back here that you can see. We're going to put the cord over that, and then because there's 2 channels to help keep your buttonholes running evenly, the cord's going to sit right inside there. Watch how this is going to work. We're going to just take some Pearl Crown rayon that I've got in my stash here. Gimp cord is often used too. Pretty much what we're going to do is just divide it in half, put the halfway point or the loop over the back part of the manual buttonhole foot. Then it's just going to sit right inside there. Sometimes I can get this on. Well, actually, it might be I might be there today. Okay, so let's just go ahead and we'll just stitch this normal. It's a normal buttonhole. Once it takes a few stitches, it will guide the cord for me, so I really don't have to hold on to it. Always looks like it should, but I don't have to. Touch the reverse button to set the length. And then it's going to come back down the right side of it. It's really kind of neat how it goes here. You will need to also stop it once those 2 legs are level, and then go ahead and let it do the tack and lock at the end. And then we'll show you how you finish this. There's the cut. Okay, so this is what you have. A corded buttonhole is great, also for stretchy fabrics that need some stability. But even on like a coat where it's really thick, you want to have something. It's like adding extra stabilizer underneath your stitching. So for this loop here, all you need to do is take a hold of one of the threads and pull. There we go. Maybe I'll pull the other one. There, that's much easier. Pull until the loop disappears. And then take your scissors and trim out the remaining part of that. And then when you give it a little stretch, those will kind of tuck underneath and push themselves up into the stitching. And that is how you do a corded buttonhole.